that first night was like, oh my gosh, this is somewhere that there's a roof over my head. I have somewhere to lay down. I have clean bedding. There's a restroom. There's food. No one's coming to get me. No one can leave. That is the safest place that we have had to go for a very long time.
Hi, I'm Jeff Holden. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. Our purpose and passion is to highlight a nonprofit organization in each weekly episode, giving that organization an opportunity to tell their story in their words to better inform and educate the respective communities they serve, as well as provide one more tool for them to share their message to constituents and donors. Our goal is to help build stronger communities through shared voices and to both encourage and support the growth of local nonprofit organizations through podcasting. Thanks to our founding partners for their foresight in helping us transform the way conversations start. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. For the month of May, I've chosen to do something a bit differently with our episodes. We all know the significance of mothers and children. With Mother's Day in May, I've chosen to use the full month to highlight organizations supporting moms and their children in our community. If you like this thematic approach, feel free to let me know through the link on the website. Enjoy the episode. Children, homelessness, and substance abuse create a heartbreaking cycle, one all too common in our community. Thankfully, we also have incredible programs that are working to support these women and children and help them not only get off the streets, but into society in a productive and contributing way. This episode features one of our most recognized organizations helping women leave the street and teaching, training, and helping them rebuild with housing, education, and work. If I simply mention the Red Doors, you most likely know it's St. John's program for real change. We're talking with CEO Scott Richards about the holistic services they offer, including therapy, vocational training, and a nurturing community environment that fosters accountability and hope. Scott is joined by a former client, Monica, whose powerful story highlights the urgent need for solutions. Through the lens of Monica's success story, we explore the broader societal challenges of homelessness and underscore the crucial role of nonprofit collaborations in creating sustainable solutions. For over 40 years, their impact has been profound. Scott Richards, Monica, welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast Network.
It's good to be here. Nice to see you today.
Thank you for having us.
We are so excited to speak with you. Scott, if you would introduce Monica a bit more formally,
Sure.
Because I know the audience is going, well, Monica, we don't know who is Monica.
Yeah, I'm happy to introduce Monica. So Monica is an alum of St. John's Program for Real Change. She has an incredible story about, her life and her courage and the work that she did while she was with us. And so there's not much more I will say because she will talk about her own story, but excited to be here today with Monica and to bring to life a little bit of the work that we do.
And I want to be clear, by alum, you don't mean a former employee. You mean one of your beneficiaries, one of your constituents.
So Monica is a former client of St. John's. So she came to us, at a moment in her life where, again, she'll talk about this, but, where she was experiencing homelessness and looking to turn her life around and found that St. John's was the place where she could start to develop the relationships and develop the skills and the things necessary for the goals that she had for herself. So yes, an alum of St. John's is quite an honor and a badge to wear in our community because it means that you've really confronted and faced, some significant challenges in your life, and you found a path to success and stability around the goals that our clients have for themselves and for their families. We're St. John's Program for Women and Children, so Monica came to us with her kids, and so that's what it means to be an alum, is somebody that has come at a difficult moment and has found a path forward in their life and is now, employed and found a place to live and being a part of the Sacramento community in new ways.
Well, Monica, I'm both humbled and fortunate to be able to talk with you today, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Scott, if you would walk us through the programs at St. John's, what really is the greater program itself? It's St. John's Program for Real Change, but it's many programs. There's a lot of stuff
Yes,
happening.
it is true. It probably should be called St. John's Programs for Real Change. But I think when we talk about St. John's, we're talking about the residential program. So this is what Monica came into at St. John's as a residential-based program. And so when somebody comes to knock on our door and comes into the program or the facility or the community or the home that is St. John's, immediately, they have a place to sleep that is their own. They have meals provided. So anything that you think in a home, a community space where they start to build relationships and start to build a sense of community. And then we have case managers, therapists, and a whole set of wraparound services for women as they're kind of navigating, given wherever they're starting. Like the thing with St. John's, you can come in for different reasons and different places. And so our program is adaptable in that sense. But basically, anything that you would want and need to start getting on a path to finding stability, success, however that is for you as one of our clients. But that could be high school education classes. So if you want to finish your high school education or GED, if you want that, there's some vocational training. But part of that residential-based program is vocational learning. So you are, you're working in our industrial kitchen. We have social enterprises with Plates Catering and Red Door Desserts. So those are all incorporated into this residential program where there's the vocational learning aspect of it. There's the behavioral health component of it. And then we have a family services department that provides all those same services for the kids of our clients. So case manager, therapy, and then there's all the things that you would want kids to experience, right? Like you're living at St. John's and it's a great environment. Kids are, they want to get out and see the world and go on field trips and go to the park and do all this. So that family services provides that. And so the way that I think about it, if I sum it up, is anything you need. We're not referring people out to other agencies. We're not saying, oh, if you want that, you go here. It's all in the house at St. John's. And I probably should not forget, that journey does start if anybody has a history of substance use either personally as in their own life or in their family background. The journey really starts in our substance use treatment facility. So you do have a substance use counselor, you have a therapist, you have a case manager. And just the community, I think that's the part that likely our clients really value, right, is that you're coming home every day or you're there and you have not only roommates, but just the broader community that you're doing life with. And you're all kind of on this path to really – the name of one of our buildings is called OSS, and that stands for our second story. And so this is a place where people are really starting to write the next chapter, right? What is the next chapter of my life going to look like? How is St. John's going to help me get there? How is my community going to help me get there? And that's everything that's there. When you think about St. John's program, you're right. There's many programs, but they are all centered on really helping support the women and children that come through our doors to find stable employment, stable housing, and then whatever it takes to get them to that place. We're committed to making that happen.
Let me ask how they get there in the first place. How does a woman with her children, which I'm assuming is the majority of who your constituents are, did they just show up on your doorstep?
Probably some do.
Oh, seriously?
I think so I would think about it probably maybe in three ways. I think that there is the continuum of care in Sacramento led by Steps Forward and coordinating anybody that wants access to any resources in Sacramento. So we refer to that as 211 referrals. So if somebody is in any place in Sacramento, they can make a phone call. They kind of talk about their circumstances, and then that service would direct them to like, oh, here's where you could go. So we get a lot of referrals from 211. We also have partnerships in Sacramento, and so hopefully my friends are out there listening. Weave and Women's Empowerment and
Keep going,
Heartland.
Because, yes, they are listening, and I want your
yes, I was like, hello, I'm calling you all out.
That question comes up.
Yes,
in the sequencing, but you're answering it, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I can say more then, but I think that there are referrals through that as well. That if they're servicing clients and St. John's can be a good fit for them, we'll get those. And I think there are people through word of mouth that find us, and I don't know if that might be through friends and families or former alum. Like I'm sure that happens. I would say every week there's folks coming to knock on our door through one of those three pathways and working to find a place at St. John's. So,
do you have a level of criteria or a vetting of sorts in terms of who gets into the programs?
Yeah, I don't want to think of it as like a vetting or criteria.
Better way
in a sense, I think that maybe we could call them agreements and commitments that a woman and her
threshold of acceptance.
Like family have to make so the residential program, and we'll probably hopefully talk more about these other programs, but that program is a voluntary learning environment, right? So you're voluntarily coming. It's a sober living environment. So you are making a commitment to no drug use, no alcohol use, no cigarettes. There's a schedule, like you are part of a community. That schedule means that there's a time you wake up in the morning. You're probably like, yes, there is. There's chores, there's activities, there's classes, right? We kind of structured a curriculum around job readiness, vocational learning, and those things. So you're hitting kind of these milestones throughout the program. And so somebody coming in, if they come and they sit down and they talk with us in our intake process, they're learning about what it would be like to be part of St. John's. And so, and there has to be a commitment to say like, yes, I want to do that. And I would say that's because of the real change aspect of our name.
Right.
All right. So this is not, I think that there's lots of places where we serve many different needs in our community. When it comes to the residential program, the kind of the core of what we do, it is about folks that want to make that commitment, right? We want to meet you at that place. And you're like, yes, I want to, like, I'm tired of this way of living, right? I've hit something, and I think many of us have been there, right? Many of us have been to a place like that. And then this is a place to say like, you know what, we're going to support you and help you really toward the goals that you have. So that might be my reticence to say criteria, right? Because like one of the core criteria that might be more implicit is that you do have to have a sense for what you want, right? There's a sense of agency, empowerment. What is the goal you have? And those can be many and varied, right? I think like finding a place to live, finding a job and a career is definitely central, but some folks have other goals, right? Being reunited with their kids if there are justice involved, be other issues, through being justice involved that are important to them that are also important goals. Mm-hmm. And St. John's provides the place to say, hey, we're going to help you. We're going to help you get there.
How many residential units do you have that you can house?
We could house, let's see. Oh, man, you got to ask me a good math number. Yeah, so it's interesting because each room that we have about 31 rooms that have, and I think I have that number right, there can be more than one head of household per room, right? Okay. So the reason you're seeing my hesitation is that if a woman comes in that has 4 or 5 kids, right, she might have a room to herself, right, versus 2 single women or a woman that comes with 1 kid, right? So you could have 2 heads of household per room.
Got it.
So yes, we could house on any given day probably close to 200 women and children in our facility. I think on any given day, we're just below that, but it just depends on the family size.
What would be an average length of stay?
Oh, that's also a great question. Average length of stay was probably 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
I think that would be the best way I could think of it. Now, you can stay in our residential program beyond the 6 months, but I think what we found and what I'm learning is that sometimes just depending on who you are, you come in and you're like, I'm working on finding housing, I'm working on finding a job, I'm working through these classes. Like it's not that curriculum I said doesn't say like, all right, Jeff, in 2 months you'll finish these. No, it's not that way. So you could work through these classes. It's adaptive.
Yes.
It's kind of modified to, I think if I got this right, like you got to show up to your classes, right? And your case manager is going to be like, did you go to your classes, right? And so it could take you 3 months or 2 months or 1 month. So, but I would say the 4 to 6 month range is like where I think we're finding people are kind of figuring out where they want to go and what they want to do. There are people that stay longer than 6 months, but I think that's a good ballpark.
Monica, I'm going to ask you now that we've gone through the orientation of the residential housing and everything, tell us how you got there. How did you end up at St. John's?
My experience was a word of mouth. I was told about St. John's, I think I first heard about it in 2018 by my sister. She had a colleague that went through St. John's program, and so my whole family was very much encouraging me, you should check out St. John's, you should try, you should look into it. And at that time, I think, which might also be happening for other women, that they might not be ready. I wasn't ready at that time. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that it was what it is, which really is a one-stop shop if you're really trying to make that full turnaround in your life. And so I always had it in the back of my mind that is probably something that I should look into. So then when I finally did, then it was really a true miracle for me.
To the point that Scott made, you hadn't quite hit yet that bottom of necessitating real change.
Yeah, I wasn't ready to really face the reality of my situation. I think for myself, my story does have active addiction in it. And so for somebody like myself, I just wasn't ready to stop doing whatever it was that I was doing. And you're in denial thinking, I can turn this around, I can find the solutions. But that was not the case. That is not something that you can do on your own. And you do need real help, professional help in a setting that is a safe haven like St. John's. So for myself, going there that first night was like, oh my gosh, this is somewhere that there's a roof over my head. I have somewhere to lay down. I have clean bedding. There's a restroom. There's food. No one's coming to get me. No one can leave. It was the safest night that I had had maybe in 4 years for myself. And it was really like, okay, I don't want to go if I don't have to go. And so that really builds up that momentum for yourself, like I am in the right place and that I could do this.
And did you have your 2 children with you at this point in time too?
I have 4 children, and I went to St. John's with none of my children with me. But when I had first heard about St. John's, I only had my older 2. And so I did go through a lot of things in between the time that I had heard about St. John's until the time that I had actually arrived.
And how long were you in the program?
I came to St. John's in April of 2022, and I graduated July of 2023. And I lived in the St. John's Square from August 2023 until June of 2024.
Oh, congrats. That's great.
Almost 10 months.
Yeah.
And what about the programs? What did you learn as you went through the programs at St. John's? What was the orientation, the first start of it to where you said, this is going to work for me. I'm sticking it out.
At first, when I had experienced my time of needing to go there, it was still set up in a way that you had to call this hotline or this voicemail and leave a voicemail every day with your name and your information, and then you just hope that you get a call back. So for that time, it was a little bit discouraging because I felt like, am I not homeless enough for this? And then times had changed, and I had later heard that you can just schedule an orientation. Like every Wednesday, you could call and let them know that you need their services and that they would schedule you to come to orientation. So as soon as I found that out, I went that very next orientation slot that I had. But I want to bring to light the real reality of it for a lot of us that go there. That is the safest place that we have had to go for a very long time. You don't even realize that you're going to learn all these things and it's going to change your life because you're really just learning that you're safe, which is a really, really big deal for a lot of women. A lot of people, men or women, but for women in particular and from my own experience, that was
a basic human need.
Yes, which can so easily be taken away or taken for granted, especially victims of domestic violence. I have some domestic violence in my story. And so really that survival mode, you can learn to like, it's okay. Let me just wake up. Let me take a shower. I have a towel. I have soap. There's going to be breakfast. I didn't even know they had salt at St. John's for the first 2 weeks. I never saw the salt packets. And so it was like also I thought that was a special treat. And so just those simple, basic survival things. And then for myself, I had done a full month of actual vocational training classes, which is really the basics, right?
Yeah.
The
resume writing,
navigating barriers, some domestic violence, some parenting classes, some just, learning about the brain and learning about recovery. And so I did that for a whole month. I completed all my classes, and then it was suggested by my other resources that I was utilizing, like CPS and Sacramento County Drug Court, that I should do a 90-day program there. So then I redid 90 days of the 90-day drug counseling classes. So I did classes for 4 months straight, and I had learned every bit of information that I could possibly learn there. I had taken every single class, completed every assignment, and I had achieved all of those goals within the first 4 months that I was there. And then I was able to branch out and do the actual job learning, which I think is important because I think if you live in a lifestyle where you're not a normal member of society, you're not going to work every day, you're not making dinner for your family, you don't have somewhere stable to live, you totally forget what it's like to have an alarm and have your clothes ready for work. I mean, now I wake up at 4 a.m. and start work at 6:30, but for many years I was unemployed by choice. And so then you learned to be responsible and to be on time and be ready and have your snacks and your water bottle and say goodbye to your kids and make sure you're on time for the bus. And at that time, our plates facility was off campus, so you had to be on time to make the bus. And if you miss the bus, then you miss work. They're not going to come back for you. You really learn about being accountable, being responsible. And then if you're scared, it's like, okay, tomorrow's a new day. We can try again. You're in a safe place to make a mistake and fall down, and you're going to rebuild. It's going to be okay. There's going to be the IS staff. I mean, everyone there knows me because I really utilized
IS
it.
Intervention services.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so I really utilized that place to its entirety. I made sure that everybody knew that I needed them, and they were there for me.
Mm-hmm. And today I'm looking across at you. You work at UC Davis Health, UC Davis Med Center.
Yes.
Fully employed and doing everything learned from St. John's.
Yes.
With the necessary discipline and everything. I think you said 4 o'clock you're up?
Yes.
To get there at 5:30?
Yeah. There was no one.
That's a whole different sense of discipline, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm up so early that there's no one to say hello to in the morning on my drive to work. So it's a miracle for me, I feel like. I don't want to necessarily give it all up to a miracle because, like, a lot of the staff at St. John's likes to remind me is that I did the work. I did the hard work. I put myself in this position because I dedicated myself. I took the time I needed to rebuild myself and then applied myself. And then here I am, achieving goals I never thought. And that's another thing you learn is that you can have goals and you can achieve them. Yeah. You know, an example like a vision board, it's like silly, but really it's real. I mean, you should manifest the things that you want. You should believe in yourself. So once I learned that I could make goals and achieve them, it was like, there's no stopping me. There's no stopping me. So I think that's also another important factor, along with the survival, the thriving, and then what's beyond this and the goals, and that you could really believe in myself. And so working at UC Davis was actually one of my main goals. When I got there, I saw that they were a partner in employment, and I said, oh, I will get there.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah. That is just awesome.
Thank you.
Scott, how many people do you serve in the course of a year?
This is good. So the way I would think about it, any given day, if you came to St. John's, we might have anywhere from 130, 140 or so women and children on our campus. And I think over the course of a year, just given how long people stay or how short they might stay with the average stay, you know, somewhere 300 to 400 women and children do we serve in any given year. And that's the best estimate I can give, you know, because I think everybody's story is a little bit different and their path to their goal looks a little bit different. But we're busy. It's a bustling beehive of activity with that many people on a campus. Every afternoon I'm there at 3:30. The school bus drops off all the kids that are school-aged and all the kids come home, you know. So it's a good, healthy amount of folks that are doing the work that Monica's talking about in one place. It is pretty magical.
I can see just in my mind, I know the facility, but as I just visualize, if you're listening, just hearing this, I have this vision of this gigantic campus with a no vacancy sign and all this activity and buses pulling up and kids.
Yeah,
and,
that's what it is like.
And you know, all sorts of elements of activity going on, and classrooms on campus as well.
Classrooms on campus. She referenced intervention services. So that is the team that's on our campus 24 hours a day. So there are 3 shifts, you know, day, swing, and grave. But those are, I think folks become close with our IS staff as well because I kind of think of them as the RA, you know, if you think the college, the college days.
I was one.
Oh, were you?
Yes.
Well,
probably the worst one ever, but had a great time. I
always hear they had to run for their money. So, but I think these are more than an RA where they are. We talk a lot about, actually, Monica talked about this, right? Having a safe space. Like our mission is to provide or create a safe space for women and children to heal and develop the skills necessary to transform their lives. And so I would say this bustling beehive of activity, it is centered around us creating a safe space. And so everybody is considering that. If you're an IS staff member, we partner with Highland Charters that provides the high school courses, like everybody, they're thinking about that, or through our social enterprises, just walking through the door, right? This is an environment that is designed to create that safe space. And so everybody is geared towards and thinking about how do we do that. We know that the goals that Monica had, right? If we go back in time, right? Like those are precious, those are sacred, like those are things that we're there to provide the safe space for and help curate and cultivate. We can't tell her what those should be, but I think we believe that that's what's on people's hearts and minds, right? That if I can break out like, oh wow, my mom used to tell me how to eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? And so if you can like set this goal and reach it, awesome. And then you do that again, and you're in a community of people that are doing that.
Right.
It's a powerful place to be.
Well, to your point, Monica, the vision board, it gave you the ability to see it. And as you did accomplish one after another, you realized I'm capable.
Right.
I can do this.
Yeah, and I think there can be so many messages, right, in the world around us about who can't make it, who can make it. And the other aspect of this environment is having those stories up on the walls, right? And you see the pictures. We probably have a poster of Monica up somewhere, or maybe, like we do have a video and a story.
You've got her on the website.
Yes, we have her on the website.
You can't miss her anyway.
But that was a real goal and a real inspiration for me when I was there. Is at that time there were storyboards up, a poster board with a picture of a woman or a woman and her children with a brief paragraph of her little story. And I'm like, I am going to have a storyboard. Yeah. I want to get through this because I would love for my story to be told. And then other goals where I want to graduate. I want to live in the square. I want to have a car. I want to have a job, not just any job. Then I want to get to UC Davis. And so it was like that list that I had made, I had accomplished. And then when I had left campus, it was like I need to create a new list. And I remember the tools that I was taught by my therapist and my case managers. I mean, even the front desk lady all the time. Yeah. There's so many people there to support you, to help you remember that you're valuable and that your goals are real. And so I just keep doing them. So my largest goal is to own property. So I can't wait to come back and tell you when that happens.
You will.
That's awesome.
You will. Scott, collaboration is a critical part of our conversation with all the nonprofits. Mm-hmm. You obviously have to touch a lot of different organizations. Who do you find that you collaborate most often with?
So for St. John's, there's many. I think that I know with Weave and Beth at Weave, there's a lot of overlap between what we're doing. And I mean, I think everybody has their own unique contribution to this, which is powerful. So I think Weave is obviously doing things that we're not well positioned to do. But to your point around collaboration, I think that's what makes it powerful, is that when folks come together and kind of know what their superpower is, like, hey, this is your superpower, this is mine, and find the synergy. But it's Weave, it's women's empowerment. Just recently got to know, Heartland and Jeff up in Heartland. And then just there's so many employment partners. UC Davis and our board member, Kimmy, was instrumental in helping establish this career pathway for women that are coming out of our program and finding entry-level positions. I don't know exactly how you entered, but kind of starting out, but knowing that there's a career track to that is important. We do work with the Department of Corrections. We run a program, it's a community re-entry program for currently incarcerated women. And through that partnership, we're doing all the same work, right? We're providing a safe space for women, in that case, no children, who are finishing up their sentence. So they're having all the same opportunities, a therapist, a case manager, high school, saving money, finding a job, getting out and working while they're finishing their sentence. So, and I think that comes with a whole lot of partnerships in and of itself, right? Because there's the high school credit program and things like that. So I really think it is not possible. If we think about the mission in Sacramento, it's not just ours, but, ending homelessness or changing the odds around homelessness, not just beating the odds. Like, it is going to take all of us finding ways to work together and to collaborate. And with women's empowerment, I'm just getting to meet some of these folks, but they do a whole level of like job training, for example, with property management. There's some discrete skills. Well, some of those folks might be able to actually find employment at St. John's because we manage property, we manage transitional housing. And so that's what I mean, right? Like, that means to me, like, being totally transparent, like, I don't have to go create a property management program.
Right, it's there.
It's already in Sacramento, so let's find a way to. These are similarly women who have experienced homelessness or experienced something similar experience at Women's Empowerment, different than St. John's, but they're now trained to be a property manager, and we need a property manager. So I think those are the kind of opportunities that exist.
Well, the beauty of that is the full 360 of it, in every way, shape, and form to the betterment of the individual and or the family that comes attached with her, it's just amazing. And if you're somebody that's looking for an employee, would you rather have somebody who just comes in off the street, and I don't mean that in a
No, yeah,
way,
no,
but
that's
or
correct.
somebody
Yes.
who's gone through this entire program,
Yeah.
that you now have a real understanding of that individual. I mean, it's almost like they would be the preferred
Yeah.
candidate.
I think it's probably, if I could wave my magic wand in the world of
You're gonna get
nonprofits.
somebody from
Yeah,
in
I
a
won't wave
second.
that one just yet. But on this point, there's so many programs that we are really good at what we do, creating the safe space, providing that, right? When you leave St. John's, right, then you go into the world and you need to find the job, you need to find the house, affordable house, right? And so those aren't things in our necessary wheelhouse, right? Like I don't run a property development corporation, but there are, right? There are the partnerships that exist in Sacramento. And if we start finding where our boundaries meet, right? So like that women's empowerment example, you're training folks for property management, you got to find them a property management job. And so that just necessitates collaboration and partnership in some way. And I think if we could figure out how to do that more, not put all our eggs in the basket of like, oh, this one program by themselves can solve this problem. No, there's something we're uniquely positioned to do and provide that is unique in our marketplace, unique in our community. And it's going to take partnerships and collaboration to actually see a world in which we don't have these. I think everybody, I don't know, you interview a lot more nonprofit people than I do, but I think we all in a sense want to work ourselves out of a job.
Right.
I think if you ask any honest person, it's like, yeah, I'd prefer not to do this the rest of my life.
Correct.
But the reality is, and I've talked about this one, we can do all of the great work inside of St. John's, but you go back into a world in which the odds are still the odds, right? Like it is still the stock of housing is still the stock of housing, and the job market is still the job market. So I think it's thinking outside of that, where are the partnerships that can help us do it? Because at the same time, I know like UC Davis is a great example. Like, hey, how do we build this pipeline? How do we do it? What do we need to do programmatically, like to prepare women for those jobs? Mm-hmm. What do they need to do infrastructure-wise of like creating the pathway? I think that's where the magic happens for Sacramento.
And the beauty of this conversation is somebody hears this, whether they're with another nonprofit that has access to,
correct, yes,
and or sponsor in some way, shape, or form for any of the organizations who are also engaged with the program. And I go, well, wait a minute, I can certainly use a couple of people in the course of any given year. I'm always turning over because people grow, they move, they go on to the next opportunity. And to be able to have that pipeline is wonderful.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like you would have one because you're full all the time. You've always got a pipeline pushing out.
Yeah.
To that point, any employers out there that are looking for...
I'm talking to them, yes.
This is for you. Listen up. We'll be back with more from St. John's Program for Real Change right after this message from the people who make our program possible. I'm thrilled to have Western Health Advantage partnering with us as they do so much to support so many nonprofit agencies in our community. As a truly local health plan, you'll find individual and family options, employer options, plans for CalPERS and Medicare Advantage. From medical services to pharmacy, health and wellness support, as well as behavioral health care, Western Health Advantage has a plan that fits what you need. As an employer, for profit or nonprofit business, individual or family, you can find more at westernhealth.com.
Hello, this is Scott Thomas with Cap Trust in our Sacramento office. I specialize in working with local nonprofits and associations. Annually, we survey private and public nonprofit organizations across the country to better understand challenges they see in today's environment. In our more recent survey, we heard concerns about proper board governance, mission-aligned investment, and how to implement alternative investments. If you would like a copy of the survey or to discuss your organization, look me up, Scott Thomas at captrust.com.
If your organization is looking for non-volunteer positions at any level, consider using our platform for your recruitment. Whether in podcast content or in the newsletter, the audience we're speaking to has your next teammate. Simply reach out to me through the website, nonprofitpod.com, for a customized solution to your open positions. Let's talk about funding for a minute.
Yeah.
How is the organization funded?
Like a lot of nonprofits, the two big categories, private fundraising and government funding are the two, those are the main categories. I think a lot of on the government side is through county, state, local funding through, County of Sacramento is a huge partner in doing this. And that's because of a lot of the services we provide with around behavioral health, substance use disorder treatment, family services, and whatnot. Private fundraising is any nonprofit person out. It's the same streams. We haven't found a magic.
Please give me unrestricted. Please, just unrestricted, right?
Yeah, it's like I could tell you some stories. Yeah, but I mean, it's the same. Individuals are a huge part of our donor base or our partners in this. There's a lot of individuals that support us every year. There are foundations, corporations, and then organizations. I'm sure a lot of people in Sacramento probably know the genesis story of St. John's, but we were born as through the Lutheran Church, the St. John's Lutheran Church in downtown Sacramento. So a lot of those organizations that are out there are churches that want to support what we do as well. That is the heart and soul, right, of development. It's private and government funding. We primarily, I think today we're higher percentage of our funding that comes in year over year is government compared to private, but it's the private funding that is not always restricted,
right? Less
restrictions. Right. And actually, I'm very open about that. I've talked to donors that want to give to us, and they've, they will ask, we'd like to. People they do want to leave their mark somewhere, right? And I have a lot of respect that, is it, I don't know, is it this job or this building yes, and if you really understand our mission, right, $50,000 can help us do a lot. And if you trust us to make a decision on how best to invest that. That's my unrestricted pitch. But I mean, there are specific needs, right? Like I could easily go down a list of.
We'll get there too.
Anybody want to do some HVAC repair work? Talk to me. There are specific.
We're not going to get that granular.
Yeah, I know.
You need to be training. There's a course for that someplace.
It's a real need.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, on the dollars and cents of it all, how big is the overall budget?
Our operating budget is just under $10 million. This year.
It's a sizable
Yep,
organization.
We've
How
grown
many employees?
About 100, just over. We have 101.
Oh boy.
101 employees.
Yeah,
yes.
that's a lot of employees.
And say, from what there's a lot of folks in Sacramento have given a lot to this organization. It's grown a lot in the past 5 to 6 years. So, people that hear that today are like, oh, wow. I think that's because of the addition of the substance use disorder treatment facility, transitional housing. There are additional programs that are operating under St. John's, all centered around creating a safe space. But yeah, we're a significantly sized organization, we've got all of the same buildings and facilities and staffing and all that comes with that makes the magic happen. Yeah, it's good. And I think that I love that financially, I love that this community shows up, not only St. John's, right, but shows up in so many ways to support work around and in homelessness. It is quite inspiring to see that of people, how can I make a difference? What can I do?
It is encouraging. We do have an extremely philanthropic community.
Yeah.
And the people who you expect, those of means and significant means,
yeah.
businesses built here generationally, second, third, fourth generation, they are all that. And they
are.
Give it back, which
they do 100%.
Is wonderful. You mentioned magic a couple of times. So now let's wave that magic wand.
Okay, yeah.
If you had that blank check and money was not an object, what would the organization look like?
Oh, all right. Well, there's two things for me. Building off what we were just talking about a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. I think that one half of that wave would create really long-term sustainable partnerships with industries, hospitality, retail, healthcare, maybe government. I don't know if that's, anywhere that we could create together entry-level, career track, living wage paying jobs with benefits would be game-changing for us. Because I think we're up against, again, what I was saying is we're doing the transformational work within the walls of St. John's, and then we've got to contend with the reality, right? The job market and job requirements and the rigors of a job, right? Those are all things, and we're eager to do that, right? I think that what we need is to strengthen or build some of those opportunities that would create that, kind of remove some of the barriers. And how can these partnerships in industry help us remove those? And I really would underscore to the magic wand part of it, entry level, I think that makes sense, right? But also career track. I guess it's finding folks on that side that we both put some skin in the game in a sense, right? What would we have to do if, it's going to cost money, it's going to take people, right, to work alongside, come alongside a client and help them through that next 2 to 3 years. Right. And I think the second part of that is I've been thinking about this because you asked me this once before, but I was like, there's a clog in this whole system somewhere. And I'm learning this from people I work with in homeless around the greater Sacramento County area, where we do this work within inside of kind of the walls of our program, but there's not always immediately a place to go. There's not an affordable housing place to go, whether that's an apartment, a condo, a house. I think we have learning, we have some of these kind of piecemeal approaches with some of the, the campsites or the parks and that are kind of meeting this immediate need. But if we as a community are committed to this idea that Monica deserves, right, a home on a street and own some dirt and property, and let's put some skin in the game there and let's think about what does that mean. And I know that people say, we're talking about that, right, the affordable housing projects and all that. But I think that there's just a bottleneck there, right? And I'm worried that over time that we can spend a lot investing in all of the important work of behavioral health and substance use treatment and family reunification, working with the courts, and then we just don't have a place for people to go. Like housing is too expensive, or there's not enough homes, and I don't have the power to fix that. But if you gave me a blank check, what I would start thinking about, I would go build a St. John's community, right? That's not programmatically designed or anything like that. I'm not going to have you wake up at 6 and do chores or regiment your life. But I don't know. And maybe that sounds wild, but it's like, all right, let's double down. Let's build a sustainable community that you own in some way. And however we make that happen, and you raise your family there and you send your kids to school. I think that's what we want. I think when we think about ending homelessness or let's solve homelessness, there's probably not enough time kind of envisioning, well, what would that actually look like, right? Like the physical environment would actually look different, Like there might be in my backyard, right? My backyard, there might be affordable housing units, right? Where I'm like, oh, this is a place where people can live whatever community you want, Right. I want to live here and I can afford $1,000 a month on rent. All right. And I'm using that because I visited a housing development. That's what it was, but that's what I would want to see.
Boy, and think of the shared experiences of the people that were in the St. John's development, where they could support each other as well in so many different ways and grow together and see families grow together, just like any other neighborhood, only it's got a different set of circumstances that you are familiar with, you all would be familiar with. Monica, I'm going to throw this to you just for an observation. If you're looking at the organization and how it went for you, what would you say, boy, it would have been great if?
I think he touched on a lot of good points, that the more accessible employment, and not all of the women that are coming through there have that privilege of being employed. A lot of them don't have a background that is going to tell them, please employ me. And so they have those challenges. My story is a little different in that sense. I might have made some intense choices in my life, but I kept it to where I was always still employable. My background wasn't heavy at all in that sense. So it brings up a challenge for other women that they're going to have to find it harder to get employed. Now, for those that are normal background, and it's just a matter of, are there jobs available? I think also that the women in that program, that entire community surrounding the community of St. John's has employed at least one girl from St. John's, right? I mean, all of the stores across the street, the grocery store, I mean, everything that's like walking accessible, light rail accessible, we have tackled it and we have tried to work there because that's just the main goal. Not everyone is able to have a car, have a license, or those are things that they weren't able to achieve maybe ever, or even given a safe environment to think you can do that, right? And so that's also something that St. John's offers. And I think also with the housing, it was so scary. I thought, I'm definitely going to live in the transitional housing in the back because why would I not? And it was so affordable to where I felt like I could really build up my life. I could save some money, but I also had to deal with the reality of my credit, my renter's credit. I had an eviction on my credit that I owed $8,000 on.
Oh, yeah.
But I was able to talk them down. I paid $3,200. And I had been saving because I lived in the transitional housing, which is under $600 to rent the room with a washer and dryer, which is also another, if I may put that out there.
Yes.
Affordable housing with a washer and dryer inside, please. We love that.
So we know where this blank check is going.
Mommies love that.
We got some
Mommies
things.
and women love washer and dryer. So then I actually found the community that I live in from another woman that I work with me at UC Davis that also came from St. John's. She didn't graduate, but she did spend a significant amount of time there. And so she said, I live here. I got in, try. And so I went and I spoke with the manager and I built that relationship. But I was able to get my apartment with my credit, my income, no cosigner needed, because I was able to take care of that at that time. But I think that is very, very discouraging, a job within reach. And then also, do I qualify? Do I make enough?
Just can't get it.
You just can't.
Yeah.
You just can't. And so there is some affordable housing. There's a nice new one that they just built on Stockton right by UC Davis called the Heights on Stockton. And I went in there the other day actually and asked them, what does this look like? They said, we get 6,000 applicants almost a month. You know, the wait list is ridiculous. And we opened the wait list 2 years ago before we even were finished building. And then a lot of them, it's just filled up. And so it's your waiting game. And so it's like
we know what we need to do there.
The waiting game is the hard part, right? Because and that's what I'm.
In the interim.
Yeah. So in the interim, what you do, and I don't know, right? But then you have to default to the kind of the system that's in place, right? And it's not a judgment on the system, but it's like we have a whole incredible programs that are doing this amazing work to like address the trauma of domestic violence or substance use, right? And people, all right, and then you get out and you're like, now I got to wait. I don't know how long the wait list is, right? 6 months.
6 months. You mentioned 6,000 people for
and if
applications.
Yeah, some wait lists are 2-3 years, and a lot of us, when you first come into St. John's and you're taking, there's a course I think it is about like credit, and they give us a list of all of the affordable housing.
Yeah.
And they're telling us to apply now.
Yeah,
well, the thing is like we're not
from day one
employed yet. We don't have jobs yet. Well, by the time that we're going to come up on that list, we will be employed. We will have our own transportation. We will be ready to go. And you have to have 3 months of employment, proof of employment to be able to qualify. And so it's scary. But I think that I've always thought there's got to be a realtor out there that will do that nitty-gritty research on what's out there, what's available. Is it 2 times the rent, 2.5 times the rent? What's in there? Is there a washer and dryer? Is it close to a light rail? Is it close to this area here that we're in right now? It's so busy. Sunrise area is very popular. And so I feel like there is someone out there that would love to do the research and find those actual obtainable places to live for women, young people, anyone that is up against that challenge, that could say, hey, come here, give me all your information. What are you looking for? Oh, I have this spot, this spot, this spot. Just like if you were to buy a home, they
have it.
Create
there's
that
your
list.
collaborative, Scott.
Yeah, we need
build an app.
I was going to say we need an app. We need some AI
There we
and
go.
an app.
We just solved the problem
No,
here.
I'm serious. I'm serious, right? Like how much different would it be if like you come through St. John's or any program in Sacramento?
Right.
We have I don't know, we call it some app, right? Mm-hmm. And it is feeding real-time information, right? Yeah, that would be brilliant.
Yep. Now back to the reality of it all. You've got your budget. What is the greatest need at St. John's?
The greatest need. Love this question. I do think that I've been thinking about this. I could go so many different directions, but what's coming up to me right now, I would put it in the category of people and talent and staff. I think that we could use, and I think we have great staff. It's not that. It's just that we have vacancies and openings for therapists, case managers, and I think part of the challenge for us is how do we keep pace with the market, the labor market, and pricing and cost and salary and compensation, and filling those positions with the qualified folks. I'm sure that makes a difference, right, in terms of who's sitting across from you and talking to you about your life and your kids. And it's not a statement. We have an incredible staff. It's just that we're growing, right? Like we have literally probably almost doubled in size in terms of staff from, 6-7 years ago because of the need and because of the demand. And then I do think space. But I'm just thinking about I was trying to think, should I go practical? Like somebody's out there, I could write a check for that. But
no, and I like that you're not, because we all know you can use the money. And some organizations, literally, it is just the money based on the nature of the organization. But to hear,
I think we
start saying people, it's the right people, and not to replace what we've got.
No,
just more
to add, yes, to add, and like the ratio from some of our behavioral health staff to the number of clients, I'd want to see a little more balanced. And then just space. I think trying to find a place for people to work in these, but like I do not have the ability, nor do I really want to like go on some capital, like let's build a new office building.
Right.
Because we don't. I think it's just like, I've heard of folks that, like redesign office spaces, and find your feng shui and how do you create the office of the future, like anything like that. Because I think hopefully this would resonate with a lot of my nonprofit colleagues. Like you're more day-to-day, you think about the mission, right? You think about the kids, clients, and the women, and then you hire somebody, you're like, oh, just sit right here for the next 6 months and we'll find you a desk sooner, or we'll find you an office sooner or later.
Don't you believe? You believe in the mission,
You believe in the mission, right? I want to see you bleed first, right?
You'll be fine.
Why do we do that to people? I don't know.
Right.
I think that's why I started thinking about people's, right? I think any even corporate, private, that, like 80% of your budget are people and salaries, right? Like 80% of, I talked to my wife about her company all the time, like 80% of your company are salespeople, right? Like you need people, and then you need an experience that they're like, oh, I can work here, I can thrive, I can learn, I can grow, I can take other and I think it's that. It's the people in the space to make it happen. It's funny, I had never thought about it until I've been in our buildings of like, yeah, like I would, we're thinking about an expansion over this next year or so and how our housing, so it'd be more aligned to the transitional housing, but rental assistance and then post-tenancy support and things like that. Well, that takes people, and then people need a place to work.
With all the elements and the variety of touch points that you've got, and before we go there, I wanted to ask you about that. They come through the door. Why the red door?
Yeah. The red door has a lot of symbolism to it, and I think in two ways. One, there's religious symbolism for those that are familiar with the Bible and the biblical stories of the Old Testament, Israel and Egypt, and the red door. The door being painted was a symbol of safety and missing judgment, or being a safe space. And in more modern history, the Underground Railroad and safe places were marked by red doors. So I think those two symbols, those are where it comes from. I think this symbol for us in terms of the red door, you will see it from obviously the moment you come to being on our property, you'll see red doors. I always think of it as I came into it, it's a door of opportunity. That's what it is, right? It is a safe space. I think that's the symbolism from history, but I think it represents walking into a new chapter of your life, whether that's home ownership, whether that's stable employment, right? Like you are opening the door to a new chapter and a new you, right? And a new alternative reality that is powerful. So I think the door carries a lot of symbolism for us because of the threshold you cross. There's so many metaphors to run with, right? But I think it's not going to go away. It's ingrained in who we are, and it's steeped in meaning for every person. Every person has a story, right, about what brought them to the door and what led them across the threshold. That's their first point. That's the first thing you do.
Through those red doors.
Yeah.
To say, I'm safe.
Yeah.
Monica, is there anything you want to add before we wrap?
Yeah, I definitely would like to touch on the great opportunities that St. John's offers and has that involvement of the community, which I think is a wonderful thing. And having the Red Door Desserts partner with outside, restaurants and other entities and hosting those guest chefs. And then once a year, that really nice big party, the Party for Change, which I think it all ties together. So I believe it's still once a month where we have the guest chef. Well, I had first received my first employment from Sutter Club, which is a private members only club downtown, because Sutter Club was the guest chef at my very first guest chef that I got to participate in, which was 4 months into my program. And so it was long awaited, and I was just so excited to do it. And I met the head chef there, and I had worked with him, and he said, when you're ready for employment, let me know, and I have a spot for you. And so that's where I was experiencing my first time of leaving the nest, if you will, and going to work every day. I took the light rail every day and worked at Sutter Club, and it was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. I didn't get my employment with UC Davis until about a year later. And so I just think it's really important that the community understands that we, as the clients, looked forward into participating in the guest chef events so much. It was our chance to connect with the community and be proud and say, look, we set these tables and we made this food all week and we worked so hard and we met these outside people that believe in us and think that we can do it and trust us. And now you're here. It's like breaking bread or inviting guests into your home. In some cultures, they say, like, if you eat dinner with somebody 3 times, you have a true friendship. And so for us, coming together as a community and then being being able to share that with the outside community was a really big part of our pride, our confidence, and believing that we could do this. And it gave us something to look forward to. And then we get to come back and tell all of the staff, we did it and we did this and we cleaned it up. And it's that hard work and that, blood, sweat, and tears in it. And it's important for the community because those people seem so proud of us and other restaurants or whoever.
No, they didn't seem. They are.
Yeah, they are very proud.
It's great.
Real.
So
It
it's,
is for real.
for anyone that's interested that has a great restaurant or a great company that wants to be involved, I think that the guest chef is a wonderful way to get to know us a little bit better from the inside out.
So there's so much here.
Yeah.
What's the best way to learn about it? Where do we go? Where do you send people?
Well, there's two places I will send you. One is come down and visit us, take a tour. So if you're listening and you have a company and you want to volunteer, you want to serve, I think it's a natural way to get involved, right? There's a way that you can come take a tour if that's where you want to start. You'll meet our volunteer coordinator and get plugged into opportunities to volunteer because we have volunteers every day of the week. Our website's a great place, I think, for anybody that's wanting to learn about St. John's, from the programs we offer to Red Door Desserts, Plates Catering, all of it's there. Anybody wants to know, like, how can I get connected? How can I be a part of this? And part of the brilliance of the folks on my team are thinking about that is like, how is the website, right? A portal into St. John's, so that if you're looking to hire a caterer, you could find that. If you're looking for Red Door Desserts, you want some cookies. Y'all out there, you want some cookies for your team party.
So good.
You can find it. But clients as well. Like, I think I've been trying to think a lot about this idea of how do we, you were asking me how do people find St. John's?
Mm-hmm.
I do think we kind of find it's word of mouth, there's referrals. And I think how do we have as open door policy, for lack of a better term, as possible, where like if you are that woman and children or no children, you're just a single woman, like how do you get to us? Website, you have to have access to internet and you have to have a phone or access, but I think that's the point is like, how can we get as many people that are looking for this access to this? And that would be the website. But I know part of like, anybody who's thinking about how do I get involved in this? How do I support this? Tour, visit our website, come to guest chef dinner, come to Party for Change, but we're there 24 hours every day. So we're
and
always
the URL
available.
on the website is?
The URL on the website is www.stjohnsprogram.org. All one word, all spelled out. It's SAINT.
Monica, you are amazing.
Thank you.
You truly are. What a special person and what a gift that you've both been given and that you're giving back. Your flexibility in sharing your story, it's not always easy. And congratulations on your success with UC Davis. I know you'll have real property at some point in time. I can just see it. You exude.
Thank you.
You exude it.
I appreciate it.
Scott, the program is amazing.
Yeah,
and
thank
I've
you.
been aware of it for a long time. And
Yeah.
have been in the community for a long time, but never really to the depth and the understanding of what it's encompassing.
Yeah.
And how, 360 degrees from start to finish,
Yeah.
putting you back out to, complete and full responsibility for yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity. Like you said, we were started in 1985, been around Sacramento because of
When I
all the
got
great
here.
people. Is that when you got here?
1985.
And I think that one of the reasons I'm excited to be here with you is just to talk about what we're doing, right? Because I think it's been a part of this community for a long time. And sometimes you're understanding what we're doing or how have we grown or how have we changed, how have we evolved over time, or what are we about now? What do we do? I would say to our listeners out there, the St. John's program of today, 2025, looks different than it did in 2015, 2005, 2000, very different than 2019. And I think a testament to all of the staff and the people that have done that. I get to just kind of stand on the shoulders of giants, but we have adapted. We've thought outside the box. How do we meet women and children where they are? And how do we utilize the resources of this community that does just what you said?
Yeah.
Gets people on a path to their dreams and their goals.
Well, thank
great.
you both. I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
you
much.
coming in.
Thank you so much.
It's been good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Podcast Network. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If what you heard moved you, please reach out to that organization and do what you can to help. If you like and appreciate what we're doing to support local nonprofits, please give us a positive review, subscribe, and share. If you're a nonprofit with an interest in participating in an episode, you can reach me at jeff@hearmenowstudio.com. If you have a need for the services or products our sponsors offer, please reach out to them. CapTrust, fiduciary advice for endowments and foundations. Runyon Saltzman Incorporated, RSE, marketing, advertising, and public relations, creating integrated communications committed to improving lives. And Western Health Advantage, a full-service healthcare plan for individuals, employer groups, and families. The Nonprofit Podcast Network is a production of, is recorded at, and edited by Hear Me Now Studio.